Good morning. It's Friday, May 3rd, and the United States has imposed sanctions on more than a dozen companies in China for their support of Russia's war in the Ukraine. Now, the U.S. has sanctioned many organizations in the past, and they have sanctioned countries, and they have sanctioned groups, and they have sanctioned individuals. And as far as I could see, those sanctions have produced nothing worthwhile. So they've gone ahead and they have sanctioned a dozen companies for support of Russia's war in the Ukraine. And are these companies doing business with the United States? I doubt it. I don't think those companies are doing business with the United States. I don't think many organizations in the United States would be doing business with companies that are associated with Russia and have an ideology that we disagree with. But, the almighty buck might mean more to some companies than just the face of it, and just that we have different opinions on the way the world should be run, as opposed to the companies and countries that are associated with China. So China is supporting Russia's war in Ukraine. And I don't know if these sanctions are going to do anything at all to change that position. And this move has come after repeated warnings from top U.S. officials, including the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and the Secretary of State Antony Blinken. We have warned top Chinese officials that they must crack down on China's provision of dual-use items to Russia. And those items the U.S. claims are being used to strengthen the Russian military in its battle against Ukraine. And we didn't sanction just a couple of people. We sanctioned over 300 targets. And they were sanctioned by the Treasury Department and the Department of State. And these sanctions include dozens of actors that have enabled Russia to acquire desperately needed technology and equipment from abroad. I don't know what they mean by actors. These are real people. These are real companies. Are they actors because they're acting in opposition to what the United States wants? And it's a widespread thing. This is not only Russia. These sanctions hit targets in Azerbaijan, in Belgium, in Slovakia, in Turkey, in the United Arab Emirates. So when we look at this conglomeration of sanctionaries, that's a new word, sanctionaries, those who were sanctioned, these are not our friends that have been sanctioned. I don't see any name on the list of companies that would make them protected from being sanctioned, because they are not companies that we really have a lot of dealings with. Sanctions are aimed at the countries that are supporting Russia's activities in its war against Ukraine. Why do those people really want Russia to win this war? Russia is an aggressive nation, a shell of what it used to be when it was the USSR. And all the world should recognize the fact that Putin wants to reestablish the USSR. And he must be stopped in those activities. Because if he wins in the Ukraine, that's not going to end the wars anywhere. The next step will be any of those small countries that came out of the USSR. So the US has good reason to be alarmed about China's support for Russia's defense industrial base. And it is support that the US says has allowed Moscow to continue its war against the Ukraine. And Russia has begun to build back its defense capabilities. And they have used diplomatic means to continue getting the support that they need. And they will continue to put pressure on the rest of that region if it isn't stopped. So Russia, in the opinion of many in our State Department, is no longer on the back foot or on its ass. They are surging. They have lots and lots of assets. And they have reconstituted their financial world situation. So they pose a threat not only to the Ukraine, but to that entire region, the region that was once the USSR. So in the minds of many in our State Department, this is a critical worldwide situation. We cannot allow China to continue to support Russia, and we cannot allow Russia to attempt and probably come to the same situation that they were when they were the USSR, because that's where Putin wants to be. So it's absolutely critical that the support that Russia is getting from China is stopped somehow, because it's not the weapons, but the components for defense for its industrial base. It's things like machine tools, microelectronics. Those are the overwhelming number one supplies that China is giving to Russia. And that's having a material effect in the Ukraine and against the Ukraine. But it's also having a material effect in creating a growing base that believes that Russia poses great threats to countries in Europe. And this entire situation is not being ignored by those countries. And they desperately will need the help of the U.S. And so whatever's going on right now, tangentially, it will fall in our laps, in the laps of the U.S. government and the U.S. citizens, because nowhere else is it a capability of stopping this onslaught. The UN is worthless. They could help in some way, but they're worthless. So no matter what the U.S. says, and no matter what their discussions with Beijing are intended to mean, Beijing will ignore them, because Beijing wants to be number one in the world. And there is little sign that Beijing intends to listen to the U.S. warnings. So with that, I offer you a great day. Have a good day. Bye.